Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Our report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into every living room a selling machine.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another episode of Kinescope as we explore the live television era in the United States. John Suntress here, Gabe Hardman here, Ian Brill here, Jeff Parker here, and this is going to be a lot of strange fun. We don't blame anyone for not sticking through the viewing of Captain Video, but I'm really glad that we're talking about it because it's an amazing show from a television phenomena standpoint.
What the hell was going on in these episodes, John? We instituted this new thing where you have to do the recaps of stuff. It's down
I'd
to
love
you.
to see somebody do a recap of this.
Yeah, it's down to you to explain to everybody what the hell was going on in Captain.
Well, I will only do the broad brushstrokes and say Captain Video was a 5-day-a-week serial. In the initial stages, it was so popular they created a 6-day, a Saturday show, but it was on the Dumont network.
And on the 7th day, they rested.
And then because they really had to kind of figure out their brains. Essentially, it was initially planned to be Captain Video was going to be one of your classic afternoon kid show hosts that would introduce Westerns. But they decided to flip the concept instead. And it became Captain Video and his Video Rangers. Captain Video and the Video Ranger, his Robin, his sidekick, with a very mysterious name. They were the leads. They dealt with space opera kind of things on a shoestring budget, painted sets, going to the hardware store and taking a staple gun, putting a thimble on it and calling it a ray gun or a wooden spool, God only knows. You can kind of see it a little bit in the kinescopes that survive of the show. But they would also
Wanamaker's Auto Parts is what they made the guns out of, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
He would also, in the middle of whatever the problem was of the day, go to his video scope. Here's a picture of this. And he would tune in and check in on who he called his Video Rangers. The Video Rangers were about 7 to 10 minutes of these Westerns that Dumont Network had purchased to originally be, here's Captain Video introducing the, Sage of Sawbutch or whatever. And instead, the movies were so bad, they decided to make the space opera show and intersperse, I don't know, to give, I guess, a chance to maybe move sets or whatever, but they would cut to portions of these Westerns with no other explanation of, let's check in on Video Ranger Rex and see what he's up to right now.
Well, the guy who would suddenly go over and he'd talk about Captain Video after he'd get through telling me to eat candy for fucking breakfast.
Yes.
Wait, he's not telling you to eat candy. He's telling you to eat Sugar Crisp, or Golden Crisp as it is known now. And the great thing about Sugar Crisp is that there's 3 ways to eat it. You can eat it as cereal, you can eat it as a snack, or you can do what I do, which is you shove your whole hand down the box and you eat it like candy.
Eat it like candy.
because it is candy.
Yeah.
And then he cut over and say, let's check in on his agents. Meanwhile, the agents in Cowboy Times never mentioned Captain Video.
No.
I wonder why.
Street.
Well, they're undercover.
Yeah, sure.
But it is like 1800s westerns. It's not like Hopalong Cassidy going up against a southern mob of some sort.
Right.
No,
like,
it's just they just bought some B Western, Z level Westerns, and like, you know, chopped up little clips of them, put them in the middle of the show just to fill time. I mean, I don't know any other reason. I understand the original setup of it, but in the context of the actual show, it makes no sense.
The level of Western is like, if anyone, because I know that certainly in the DVD era, you could find $3.99 John Wayne Western videos of his early career. It's companies like Lone Star. I mean, this is below Monogram. This is below, I can't think of anyone other than Monogram right now. But these are, like you said, Z-level Westerns. And, I mean, again, and it's with no explanation. I mean, I guess they kind of end where whatever gunplay or horse chasing they were doing ends. And they wind up either at a sheriff's office or a bar or whatever. But yeah, it's so weird. But again, 1949 is the year that it was created. This was definitely better than watching the test pattern for another hour.
True.
And it was a huge success.
I think there's an important
Minnow was right. That's what I want to say.
Wasteland.
Yeah. And
vast wasteland.
A super important distinction between the Western parts of this and the Captain Video parts of it is that people intentionally made the Captain Video parts of it, right? Like, it doesn't. Those parts don't even have the excuse of this is just a chopped up piece of of a Z Western. This utterly incoherent mess. I mean, I understand that it's that the show is a serial, right? Yeah. But as many people who are in this, on the show right now can understand, like, writing serialized fiction is something that comes with the need to build in some things so that people can follow along who don't know everything about it, and and everything about it's not okay. So this is a show for children, and in a lot of ways, it's not fair to
by
criticize
people
it.
Who have never met children.
Yes, but here's the thing, though. I feel like it's a show for children, but it's told as if it was told by children, right? It's a long series of endlessly, like, developing nonsense that, the way a little kid will tell a story with no sense of structure whatsoever, and just making up new nonsense at every turn to solve any given problem.
I'm put in the mind of when Howard Hawks adapted Raymond Chandler, and he brought in Faulkner and Lee Brackett, and to get the snappy banter and the right feel for it. And people often say the big sleep, it's impossible to discern what the actual plot of it is, but they have never seen Captain Video. I defy anybody to tell me what one of these things was about.
It's incredible. Like, I felt like, to some extent, I also felt a little bit like watching David Lynch's Inland Empire, right? There's no point in this where everybody sings the locomotion, but it looks like garbage and it makes no fucking sense, right? So, it's just so difficult. I swear, I watched two of these episodes. I watched them twice. I could not follow what was going on in any way.
Yeah. No, I compared the once I watched the first TV episode, I compared it to the Columbia cliffhanger that was made around like a couple years after the TV show had begun, like 51, I want to say. And as I told people today, if you want a coherent but kitschy sci-fi story, watch the cliffhanger. But I would say, and one of the reasons why I think there is an explanation for the sci-fi and the Western merging is the likelihood, even in 1949 early television, that the Gene Autry Secret Empire or Phantom Empire.
That's what I was thinking of, the much better version of this.
Yeah.
Right.
But
and it was
John, that was radio.
Right. Well, you're right, and it was made. It was made in the late 30s, and part of the thing was that Gene Autry, doing his cowboy show, discovers this alien invasion that's happening underground, and there are times when the aliens are chasing Gene. Gene is on horseback in full costume of cowboy, and the aliens are almost in like clannish kind of alien costumes, and they're shooting ray guns while they're on horseback. So that's why
this was going to be.
Right, and that's why I could see show also that being shown in the milieu of the era, and people being, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
But they had every ability to write the Captain Video stuff to make some sense with the Western part, and we're dwelling on the Western part as if that's the most egregious.
It's just the weirdest. It is the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it is, but just the opening announcer parts of Captain Video, where they're supposed to be catching us up, are too confusing to follow, right? I mean, it's now on two different planets at the same time, on Metasteros and on this thing, and blah blah blah, and then now there's a big lever that somebody pulled the last time, but Captain Video doesn't know about this lever, so we'll see what happens about that. It's just like, oh my God, just like,
well, yeah. Is he going to pull the lever? They forget about the lever, by the way.
Yeah, fuck the lever. Like it never, like it's just, it's a stream of consciousness. I mean, if anything,
it is a stream of consciousness.
It's like beat poetry, you know. It's like, I feel like this is a Kerouac, Ginsberg, Captain Video. This is all a piece, you know.
They seem to think they're again going back to the Gene Autry thing, which is much better. I saw it as a kid on PBS. And I was totally into it. They seem to be wanting to evoke that, but they're thinking that radio is the past. The word video is the future. Let's say video as much as we can here, and yet keep doing a radio style thing where someone can't stop shouting Captain Video in the background over and over as Captain Video. And
just so many situations where people sit around and postulate what will happen and then make plans based on that guess about what will happen. And except
for Captain Video himself, who does nothing.
He's barely
he's the most uncharismatic lead I've seen in anything for
Richard
a while.
Coogan.
Right. And so, but wasn't one of the ones that we watched the other guy as well? Al
Hodge.
Yeah, Al Hodge.
This is Al Hodge on the right, looking at the monitor with the Video Ranger. It's the same Video Ranger on each version. This is Richard Coogan, the original Captain Video, who did the role for like 2 years or just under 2 years, and went to soap operas after that and had a very successful career in soap operas. But I thought very interestingly, I know Ian watched. Did everybody else watch the Television Academy oral history interviews?
Oh, yeah. I watched the clips relevant to this.
It was, I give it, and I believe him. I mean, it was really cool to see, kind of in modern day sense, like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, where he told this great sad story about a kid who was a burn victim. And he went and saw him, and the kid wasn't responding to treatment and really thought his life was over. And Richard Coogan comes dressed as Captain Video and is like, hey, you got to listen. You want to be a Video Ranger? And, of course, every kid wanted to that was in the New York area at the time. Well, then you got to listen to the doctors, and you got to start eating, and you really got to start being well. And the kid got out of the hospital, and I think that's outstanding. So he understood the gravitas of being this childhood hero. And as wooden as he was, I kind of like that in his.
I guess it worked on kids because they could make the story anything they wanted because it was this amorphous thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, humans are pattern-finding animals. Children, especially. I mean, the way that you can develop and understand the world and operate in the world is to find patterns and things. And when there's no pattern in something, then you have an enormous ability as a child to just impose that on it. And so I'm sure that there are just there's an entire generation of those kids from, New York area or whatever who saw this, who had like this very full imagining of what Captain Video was in their head forever. And it was live and they never saw it again. And so they just blissfully got to live the rest of their lives imagining that it was great and heartfelt. Me, I had to go back and watch Krull as an adult and have my heart broken, right?
That's the benefit of no DVD, no video. You don't get to return to it.
Just live in your memory.
Well,
yeah.
And again, and I don't know, I'm sure fans of the TV show ultimately saw the movie Serial as well. And I mean, obviously the budget jumps up about a good 5%. So that's the good news.
The big thing in the Serial.
What's that?
The big thing in the Serial is that they tinted some of it's in black and white, but some of the when they go to a different planet, it's tinted green or red.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, I mean that's kind of amazing. And I've got
like silent movies. That was the convention of silent movies, that they were tinted and the different scenes were tinted different colors and stuff like that. That
sure.
often hasn't followed through.
Yeah, but it obviously played into the sci-fi. And I'm going to show some comic book covers. Stephen points out that yes, it was a comic book. Also, by the way, Jason asked how we would update Captain Video for today. Well, they already did an excellent series from about 10 years ago, Howard Chaykin and Matt Fraction. Satellite Sam. And right. Satellite Sam is amazing. And it's obviously a parody of the behind the scenes world of Captain Video. And I think you've done quite effectively well.
Absolutely. I don't think that that's not exactly an update of this, because I mean it's an update of it would be a more earnest sort of remake of it. But I mean, the way that I think that the good version of that is, yeah, sure, it's it's a streaming series, and I mean, how do you make it better? Mildly coherent, I guess, would be a good way to go. I don't know. I mean, that's just my thought. That's my initial thought, my initial pitch for it. Mildly coherent.
Whoever thought the idea, Ian, was it you that like maybe Captain Video is like working through time and space?
Well, yeah. When they cut to like his agents and their westerns, I'm like, did they go back in time? What's going on?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I've to fix this thing on Pluto I'm doing for some reason. These cowboys this one guy has to somehow make 8 other cowboys drop their rifles with his pistol. I'm like, what?
Like, I could see how
you guys were a bunch of pushovers.
Like, kids could be excited of the idea that spacemen went back in time and pretended to be cowboys. That's not what's happening, but that's the ploy that Captain Video is telling you.
Sure.
Here are a couple comic book covers from the period. Fawcett did the Captain Video comic book.
Nice.
So again, much better looking than what we got live action.
Better. You mean better looking than the show?
Yeah, and there's Richard Coogan, and I think maybe that is Al Hodge. That might be Al Hodge. Al Hodge, everybody, if you don't know, was the radio voice of the Green Hornet for 15 years before doing Captain Video. And it's kind of cool that he was able to transition to TV and be another big hero and stuff.
Who's his little sidekick? And does he have a name like Rusty or something? What?
No, it's the Video Ranger.
The Video Ranger. That's his only name. I mean, in the Academy interviews, the actor whose name is escaping me at the moment, but maybe John has it, he talked about how like there was an episode of the show where his mom, the character's mom was on the episode, and the mom called him Video Ranger. So like,
of course she did.
Like Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like an intriguing name for a very boring character. And it's like, all right, again.
I think the bar is set pretty low for intrigue here, John. Like, and so
it was a huge. I'm going to bring up a couple of the toys. Massive success, ran for 5 years, and really ended when the Dumont Network ended, basically. But other than the Jackie Gleason show, also in 1949, I believe, this was the other big hit, and proof that it was a sustaining big hit when the first episode of The Honeymooners, the proper half-hour show, TV or not TV, where they go halvesies on a set, and it's down in the Cramden's house. And as you can see here, Ralph is shocked because Norton has come down to not only watch Captain Video, but participate wearing some of the merchandise available.
That's just cross pollination right there.
And that was 1955. So this is well after, its debut in 1949, and Captain Video was still a thing.
Oh, well, that's the thing. Okay, so here's the unfortunate thing. There's like thousands of Captain Video episodes, and like 6 exist.
Right.
But what I've read is that later on, Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov were writing episodes. I'm like, I would love to see that, but apparently those have been flushed down the drain.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, like a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, according to Richard Coogan, they would spend about 2 weeks on each story for whatever.
Right, but also just as on the point of them not existing anymore, it's not just because they vanished. It was like because of the Dumont network only failed after a certain point. There were these and the materials ended up getting lost in like some kind of as it was sold from company to company or whatever. At some point there was a big fire or something and they lost it.
I was going to say
or they threw everything out or something.
Every time there's something anybody's embarrassing about, there's suddenly a fire that took place.
Yeah. Hey,
somewhere
are we gonna figure out if Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke were what were they in the country at the time of this fire?
Right.
Or perhaps did they buy any matches around that time? I mean, it is interesting though. We also took a look at an Arthur C. Clarke short story, right? That was a trifle, but it was kind of inspired by his time working on Captain Video. What do you guys think of that?
Security check.
Security check. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, indeed. I love that story. That was terrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost more like a joke than a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a funny idea.
It's and truly the X-Files. You got to ask Chris Carter if Jose Chung's From Outer Space is the Security Check is the inspiration for that, because it really is kind of this great, as it was described in Wikipedia, a Men in Black sort of story.
Yeah,
and that was inspired by a janitor who worked on Captain Video.
And I think it's partly that, maybe this is where that trope starts, but it's a pretty common trope of the, down to
Men in Black,
Galaxy Quest, and all that sort of stuff as well. The kind of making the the fictional thing something sort of real,
but also almost the plainclothes attack at Sci-Fi has that kind of Men in Black sort of feel. I mean, you see, Captain Video's outfit and everything's pretty. It's not very, hip or anything. Also, again, not only the Phantom Empire, Gene Autry, but as we were saying, I think before we started recording, and they're on YouTube as well. But they're filmed like 3-camera or like motion pictures. The Rocky Jones film series that was also cut up as a cliffhanger TV show of the same era. And in fact, there was, I guess, one of the other reasons why they decided to make it a sci-fi show rather than just a sci-fi host hosting westerns was I guess they had more street level bad guys, but they had heard that there's a Buck Rogers television show in the works. Again, the serial already existed with Buster Crabbe, plus the Flash Gordon serials and movies. So yeah, they were kind of fearful for that. That's when it got more interplanetary, Captain Video.
Right, and Ian found an episode of that.
There's one surviving Buck Rogers episode of the 50s. Unfortunately, so 2 actresses played Wilma Deering in that. One of them was Ava Marie Saint, but none of the episodes with her exist. We have one episode with an actress named Lou Prentice, who I don't think did anything else. Yeah. Although it's not bad.
I watched that as well. I mean, the funny thing about that was that it wasn't like the greatest thing in the world. It wasn't the most sophisticated thing in the world, but I was able to watch it and follow what was going on, right?
Yeah.
And this is a very different situation from Captain Video. Like, it had an actual little story. It was I was engaged enough, even though there's a scene where Buck Rogers wears a much stupider looking outfit than even Captain Video does, and there's a scene where he comes in and just like sits down on a love seat, and it is one of the silliest looking things ever. Like, but but I don't know. I mean, at least it made some sense. It was, it was like I don't know what the hell this show was, because the actual episode was a kind of, old dark house style, haunted housey sort of story, but in space or whatever. And it was an oddity, but I enjoyed the oddity of that one more than the Captain Video ones.
Understood. And also, again, those other serials were likely playing on TV opposite this. Another contemporary show that was another live action show, and I wouldn't mind exploring again on because I think they did it slightly better. Is Tom Corbett Space Cadet?
Okay,
I think it's Space Cadet, right?
Sounds
Space
right.
Patrol. Space Patrol.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least they probably showed an outside shot with a little rocket and some fire coming out of it.
Yeah,
where was it? I was hoping to see something like that.
I know, it
much
never
money,
happens.
man. Too much money.
You can never tell what they're in, and
That's why I love.
Speaking of the costumes that John was talking about, the first time, in that first one you sent us the link to, Captain Video's just walking around. It looks like he's wearing coveralls with the front pulled down, for the whole episode, and I don't know why. I mean, maybe it was.
Is that the one where they're on
in a previous episode? But it's just like walking around with this thing. Like, was that supposed to look like something? I didn't understand what was. Like, did he not?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wish I had something like more, enlightening to say about Captain Video, but it's just so hard to get your head around this stuff.
Well, yeah.
Well,
again,
it's the most it's certainly the most challenging show that we've watched.
Right, but again, it was live. It was on every day, and it hooked a generation that could see it.
Definitely,
and it did very well. And I mean, my God, it really kept Dumont going in a financial way where other shows didn't.
And one of the very different things about this from the other stuff that we're talking about is that, these other things are, well rehearsed and, really highly crafted. And this is not. This is this is showing up on the day. They get the script, they rehearse it, and then they shoot it, right? And so
I don't think they rehearsed.
I think it was generous to say that they rehearsed it because but
they dropped lines. Yeah,
I was trying to be nice. I was trying to say something nice about Captain Video because they claim they rehearsed it, so I'm not going to dismiss that out of hand.
So much of it feels like too they're still thinking they're doing radio.
Yeah, but but it also is there. What I was going to say is that you get so much more a sense of the live TV of it all. You get that kind of stammery. I'm not sure if this is the right piece of dialogue. There was a thing in one of the episodes where one weird random henchman guy, where they're like, hey, somebody's coming in. I hope it's not Captain Video. And it's like, it kind of felt like they weren't sure who was going to come in who was going to enter the scene. And then the guy comes in and they're like, oh, good. It's not Captain Video. And, and you could tell that, but it's as clear as the nose on your face. And then the next line was a different sort of line about a nose that it was as if the guy just couldn't. He was up on his, script, and he just was trying to say anything that would fit in, And I think that sense of this is a train that's going and slightly out of control, and we have to just keep, we have to say something like that. That sense of chaos is much, much more apparent in this than in the other things that we've watched.
Absolutely.
The one bit in the whole rigged handle that never goes anywhere episode. They have the one bad guy who suddenly it's like he decides on his own in the middle of the scene to I'm not really the bad guy. And then he just says, I'm actually trying to save Captain Video. And they're like, what? And, the whole thing turns around and then he's leaning in telling him. And I'm like, he is making this up on the spot.
Yeah,
There's no way this was written.
Absolutely. It's like when kids are playing some, game where they're, let's play Star Wars or whatever. They just decide, you go along and then somebody's like, oh, here's the big twist. I'm going to reveal that I'm a good guy. And then there is this
but it also
childlike aspect to the storytelling on it. That's not like a show for children, but a show by children.
Well, and again,
go back to telling you, ordering you to get your parents to buy the cereal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or go
please, sugar
pee
spikes.
on the carpet if they won't buy it for you. I
Sugar
don't
crisp,
do
yes.
anything.
It is, the how hard they hit the whole candy idea over and over and over again. It's pretty amazing.
You could sell cereal and call it candy,
Yes.
and people weren't mad at you.
Not at all.
Government
You
did
can't
not
even
regulate
call it
things
Sugar
then.
Crisp anymore. Like, he's called Sugar Bear.
Guys,
What?
I was given ho-hos for breakfast by this generation, now adults, and they didn't blink until the FDA started saying, hey, watch what you serve your kids for breakfast. Oh,
really?
that's a thought.
Interesting.
That's
Never
a
would have
thought.
thought of that. Yeah.
Well, how you doing? I mean, again, I was raised by the baby boomers, unfortunately, so I'm right behind them. And yeah, it's interesting, but also, sadly, again, lowest common denominator of viewers. The show was put on the air to air at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I would, well, again, it had no penetration to the Pacific back then because Dumont had a limited scope of how far it went. But yeah, I mean, so this is the pre prime time hour, but obviously late enough in the day that they expected and got the adult audience, or had the adult audience, and maybe moved it. I don't remember.
Well, but look, it is I think that maybe we're not impressing enough on people how this is I mean, you were saying the thing about better than watching a test pattern, and this is 1949. Literally anything on television is something interesting, right?
Right.
It's just
right.
just the technology makes it interesting.
Yep.
I mean, TV had like experimentally been around for a while, but this is the very, very beginning of anything really breaking through.
Being mass produced. Yes, being mass produced.
Have people having television sets
right.
in order to watch this stuff. And to some extent, this was the ultimately failed Dumont network, but they had they started by making televisions. They perfected the cathode ray tube and like basically made the decision to pursue developing the cathode ray tube in a way that it which was the basis of television back then, that in a way where the tube would last long enough that it would be commercially viable to sell them, and chose that over mechanical television, which I would explain right now, but I don't understand it. So but the Dumont was important in the development of just making television, the actual physical televisions, accessible to people and marketing them and stuff. The brother of one of the Dumont brothers would go around from to in the early days to bars and try to sell TVs to bars as a way to get market penetration for this stuff. And yet he said that he would have a hard time actually selling them because there was no programming on, right? So he couldn't demonstrate the TV in order to sell it to the guy at the bar. But that was it was such early days in it all that just having something to watch on TV, even if it was this Captain Video nonsense, was something,
Absolutely. No, I've been showing pictures. This is again that electrocam system in action as they're shooting an episode of Captain Video. Jeff, you had me do a couple pictures that you wanted to point out, and I was wondering if you wanted to talk about them. That you said.
I don't know if I was just sending you some to amuse myself, or I did like that. They did a fade right here. It shows so much promise. Like this is going to be.
Look how arty that is.
Something.
It's pretty exciting.
That was it.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's interesting how they, it is so cheap. They're like wearing football helmets and goggles that are just off the shelf. They're like, and this drawing makes it look so much cooler than the actual show.
100%.
But
do you have the picture of the guy who looked like Captain Haddock from Tintin? There he is.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what his deal in the brick wall was, but he's a sea captain. There's other episodes I found where they're doing a Kyber rifles sort of thing, and people are running around wearing long robes and shooting, in the desert. So it wasn't just Westerns. And then there was
another,
Then there was some super racist Fu Manchu type bit from another episode. There it is.
Oh, and there's also plenty of just offhanded racist stuff in here. I mean, which is just, I mean, again, I'm not going to repeat stuff, but like, there's certainly uncomfortable things about it, but it's also unclear if those were just things that actors made up in the moment too. I don't want to. It's like I don't want to ever blame actors for things, right? Like, I mean, it's not their fault that the thing doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, this is essentially a play, and it's their job to pull it off. And it's a little bit of a suicide mission here for them.
It's also a shame that no episodes that I could find exist where Ernest Borgnine is one of the bad aliens. But
they did mention
pre-Marty, pre-Bad Day at Black Rock,
Ernest Borgnine,
Marty,
Ernest Borgnine, but also according to the actor who played Captain Video, Walter Matthau was in episodes. He said Jack Lemmon was in episodes. These were out of work theater actors, slumming on television, trying to just making a tiny paycheck, and and because that was all happening all at the same time in New York in the early 50s.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you can't that like they could go on it and then they think, oh well, it's not like anyone's ever going to see it again.
Yeah.
On his,
I'm going to set the warehouse on fire.
In 70 years, nobody's going to be talking about this on a podcast.
On his Television Academy interview, Jack Lemmon spends a lot of time talking, and I'm not saying that you guys are not saying this, but he spends a lot of time talking about his television years, and certainly more about the quality stuff, and talks about Worthington Minor, the great producer and stuff, but also acknowledges some of his other failed shows where he was on like early sitcoms. He was on a sitcom with Commissioner Gordon from the Batman series.
Neil Hamilton,
Neil Hamilton. And Neil Hamilton was like a rich man about town, and Jack Lemmon played his houseboy. And and it was kind of a one-season failure of a sitcom that he said he did. And I know there's a Studio One of him doing a romantic comedy called June Moon or something like that.
In the Studio One box set.
And then like the backdrops are painted on the wall and stuff that are supposed to be the set scenery and everything. So, but
they painted something on that flat, which is well above and beyond what Captain.
Well, we got on Captain Video. There's no question about that. Absolutely. You know what I love, and we've never really talked about it on the earlier episodes, especially the things like 12 Angry Men and stuff. I love those, and I know they did it for Patterns as well. I love those oil paintings that are used as a transition between acts.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine for this thing that's only going to air once that they took the time to hire a painter to make for a lack of a better comparison, almost like a color Hirschfield sort of, illustration of the play?
Yeah, I mean those illustrations. I mean, and it's probably money well spent because it's time on camera that you don't have to worry about. Particularly in a lot of those dramatic ones, they're very cool, expressive, cartoony sort of
they're of the
cards,
time. They're of the art style of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? They were and good Esquire and other magazine kind of spot illustrations or page illustrations.
Yeah, they have the feeling of that mid-century American illustration thing. Yeah, absolutely.
So Captain Fitty. Yeah,
Captain Fitty.
I do want to present one theory. We wonder what's the influence of Captain Video. It has some, obviously notoriety because it is the first example of science fiction on television. But I do wonder this: was Gene Roddenberry influenced by this when he did the Menagerie? The idea we can just put a show in another show. It's we can have the crew of this Star Trek watch the pilot, the unaired pilot. It's he's Captain Video put in westerns.
I suspect that Gene Roddenberry was out chasing the ladies,
carousing,
instead of watching Captain Video. That's just my guess.
Well, he was definitely both a World War II and commercial airline pilot.
Yeah, he flew for TWA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was spending my time in the Red Lounge with some lovely young ladies that also worked for the airline, and we got quite along quite well.
Is Darren Dockerman on this?
Darren Dockerman has joined the podcast. I got to tell you, and I always will credit that, but I as a poor man's mimic, am delighted when somebody cracks the code on how to do a voice. And it's like, oh, I can do that. Wait, that's how I got my buddy Michael Caine. I mean, it's that's what happens. So,
sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thank you for tolerating. Moving on.
That's good stuff. All right.
Yeah, we could be done. There really isn't much else to say.
It's interesting. I mean, it is certainly an interesting little capsule of this transitional point where TV hasn't caught up production-wise with with where it'll end up going, which makes it great later. And it's and as much as I'm saying that it's incoherent, there is a level of interest in just the idea of these people having to just get out there and put on a show, even if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
and
this is when there are good histories or biographies and it's referred to as it's a warts and all story, this is the warts side of live television.
Yeah.
This is we got to get it done, and we don't have the best actors and we don't have the best writers, and you see all the flaws of live television, but that's part of the energy that makes it interesting. And that's why ignore the story. Truly watch the movement. And that's why I was like, Ian's the one who suggested we do it.
I don't think it was a bad idea to do it at all. I mean, I think that it's his part of the okay, look, yes, it's Ian's fault. We're just desperately trying to cover that faux pas. But no, way to go, Ian. I think it's a good,
I love
textually it's really good to look at, and it's also 4 years earlier than the earliest thing that we've looked at. I think the earliest thing we looked at was Marty, and Marty is technically clunky but brilliantly written and performed, and I think that they were really still at that point still figuring out how to craft things well. And this is 4 years earlier and a children's science fiction show. So totally. I mean, that was every day, a serial that was basically every day instead of a nicely crafted play, right? So I mean, that said, I do think that they, it could have been good instead of what it was. But it's seeing the mess of it is like it would be like so many of the people who work who worked in live TV, they sort of scoff at the idea of it being a golden age of television because they were like, so much of this stuff was crap. People are just remembering the good things, right? And it would be disingenuous for us to just present this all as if they are, like these 5-star dramas that are, that are amazing. It's worth taking a look at stuff that didn't work. It's worth taking a look at stuff that was just, that was the seed of where this stuff grew from, and figuring things out technically. Apparently, according to one of the technical guys who worked on the show, like they figured out, Jeff, you guys were pointing out that dissolve. Apparently, they just stumbled on being able to do a dissolve on this show by accidentally mixing two different cameras, two shots from two different cameras together, and going, hey, look, we got that's kind of cool. Let's do that. I mean, all of this stuff was just them desperately trying to keep up with producing something quickly and there's no precedent for them. There's nobody for them to look back on and go, this is how this is all going to work.
I just wish I could have seen that little robot with the hat that you see in that poster John threw up a while ago. That to me is the most interesting image.
Where's the robot with? Oh, is it one of these?
There's also.
See, he's over by the sea.
There's also this whole thing.
He's a robot with a hat and ears.
Oh, those are the cereal. You can
there it is. Of course, that's. I was confused by that. Yeah, Yeah, but also I thought it was from, but it is in that. So you're right. It must be part of the movie. I always thought that was from the Man from Planet X, where it has a similar hat and kind of smiley robot face and everything.
Yeah.
I think, no, you're right. Again, that's in the serial.
But there's also there is a robot character that came out of Captain Video called Togar, right?
Tobor. Yeah, Tobor. Tobor, because it's robot. It was supposed to be robot.
Wait, Tobor wasn't from Captain Video, was he?
What's that?
Tobor wasn't from Captain Video.
Not the film Tobor the Great, and I don't know the year of Tobor the Great, but according to the story, they created a robot character on Captain Video that was supposed to be Robot 1, and they got the stencil backwards when they put the stencil robot backwards. So it became I Tobor.
Wow.
And then the character became popular. Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie The Colossus of New York?
Yeah.
Where a little kid
about the computer?
It's like a kid and his dad gets put in a robot and
no, actually, no. I was thinking of.
I could be confusing
Colossus
like three different
and Colossus
movies.
The Corbin Project. Those are the Colossus movies I know.
How dare you? I'm the one who brings up Colossus the Forbin Project around here. That's like That's like Ian talking about Hal Needham. That's my territory.
Eric, the German guy from Rat Patrol.
Eric Braeden.
Eric Braeden. Yes, Eric Braeden, of course, who then, spent 30 years on Young and the Restless and became every heartthrob for a generation. Victor.
Yeah, I saw him over at the farmer's market one morning when I was over there eating.
Always important.
Do I go up and start quoting Colossus lines at him? No.
Because he really, it seemed like on his Television Academy oral history interview, he I think is reasonably proud of the ideas in the Forbin Project. So,
and he's not proud of Rat Patrol, which he shouldn't be, but it's not his fault either.
It was a great World War II TV show.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, just that the whole Rommel North Africa scene. It was full of Americans on jeeps firing guns off the back. That's the way that history really went down. People don't know that.
They jumped those sand dunes in their jeep and everything. Come on.
Yeah, and they all look like they're from the 60s, and yeah, it's great.
Christopher George and his Australian hat. Good stuff, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You're killing me. All right, once again, we have delved into talking about television other than our subject today.
I didn't see that coming.
Okay, so next week, we're going to talk about it's not the night that panicked America, right? It's
that's the 70s one.
It's the night that shook.
The night America trembled.
The night America trembled. It's a kind of a little bit of an oddity live TV, dramatization of the Mercury Theater Orson Welles, War of the Worlds broadcast. It's pretty interesting, though, despite the fact that they never reference Orson Welles in it. For whatever reason, I still don't know, but maybe we'll discover the answer to that before next week. But it's actually a really interesting thing, and and then we'll talk about the 70s version of it and just other iterations of this. But I think that'll be super fun.
No, it's a great examination of how mass media can influence a large body of people. It's one of the first examples of it happening. The actual radio show, the television play that they've created around it. Also, I don't mind letting it out. It's narrated by the great Edward R. Murrow, the great newscaster, which I think gives it its extra gravitas in terms of its presentation. And he's one of my heroes, always was, in terms of a truth teller at a very controversial time. So we can certainly get into Edward R. Murrow a bit as well. Yeah,
but this is a pretty interesting little kind of adaptation dramatization of how they made it and and the effects of it and stuff like that. And it seems the first time I watched it, I was like, wow, they're not talking about Orson. How could they do this and not mention that the director's name is Orson Welles and who in the context of that? But it actually is a pretty interesting little dramatization thing that I think was really cool. So we'll take a look at that and all the ancillary versions.
There you go, everybody. So again, it's The Night America Trembled.
Yeah.
Night America Trembled.
Ian, that's what it is. Yeah.
I believe that is correct.
In the 70s, they panicked, but in the 50s,
they just trembled.
And truly try to, because the 70s version that also stars Vic Morrow and a few other '70s character actors of the time. I believe that's only available on Daily Motion as opposed to
right.
the original that is on YouTube. So look for those. And until then, thanks a lot for watching another episode of Kinescope. Everybody take care. Thank you guys for chipping in. And everybody stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Bye-bye, everybody.
Our report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into every living room a selling machine.